What's going on, fellas? We are here to reattempt my primary front squat day. Yesterday, drove into town, got to the gym, ran through my warm-ups, was sick as hell, but like usual, the whole plan was prove to myself I can do it. And then I started going like lights out with like a 3-plate front squat. And I was like, well, fuck, if I'm going out, there's not really much I can do to get this session done. I still want to exercise, so I swapped it around and I did my cardio day as well as a little bit of the latter half of my pull day. So like the end of my event day. So I could get some training in because I was already there. I was already warm. But I figured I would actually follow my own advice. And I always tell people, especially if you train less days per week, I will generally train 5 to 6. I mean, I train every day if we include cardio focused sessions for about an hour. So I always have something I'm supposed to do. So my flexibility is slightly less, but I always tell people who train like 3-4 days a week, if just pushing a session back a day is going to make the results of that session much better, then the stimulus of that session is also much better. You'd be a fool not to push it back that one day to where you aren't sleep deprived or to you got some water in you or you ate your food. That would always be a positive. And I, for once, actually walked the walk and didn't just barrel through. So I pushed it today. We're going to see how it goes. I woke up feeling pretty shitty. Last night I had like every single sleeping supplement I own, and I've tried all of them, so I own a lot of them. And I probably got 7.5 hours of sleep, which is for me is a fucking ton. Still feel kind of shitty, but I'm much better than I would if that didn't happen. So that's awesome. I'm just going to take my time getting warmed up, get really mobile through my hips. Usually is one of the big things for my front squats is if I don't spend a little bit of time getting moving beforehand, my positions are off and I'm just that much less efficient. So the same level of strength is just getting me worse results. So I'm going to take my time, make sure that I get a light pump through my legs, make sure that I'm feeling kind of limber so my bar path can be nice, so my positioning can be nice. Because especially on front squats, it's part of the reason I love them is if you can front squat well and it looks pretty, you are never going to have a day where you're like, oh, the reason my low bar squat was bad was because mobility. If you're able to perform front squats and progress them on a weekly basis, it almost is like, yes, it's a strength stimulus. Yes, it's a cool self-limiting squat variation. But one of the things I've always thought was cool about it was that this big old check mark of, yeah, this just requires more mobility. So if you can do these, you're doing good. I kind of got that general idea from Dan Green talking about the importance of mobility within a front squat. So that's something I love them for. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to take my time, make sure I'm moving well. We're going to see how it goes. But I got a little micro rant. I was just going to bitch about this to Max, so I guess I'll say it to a camera and hope nobody on the internet bullies me for it, right? I was telling Max, it's always been very frustrating to me that like specifically within powerlifting, less so in some other strength sports, but powerlifting especially, it's so weird because it's like the one sport or endeavor that I've ever taken part in when if someone who's worse at the sport comes to someone who's better and they say, hey man, I'm just not getting better, like at my 100 meter or in boxing, I'm not seeming like to progress. Why is that? I'm getting beat by the same guys in sparring and they're not taking it seriously. They're not getting better. Why am I not catching up to them? And for whatever weird reason, powerlifting is the one sport where it's implied that everybody is trying just as hard. So they say, oh, well, like, so if that guy tells you, oh, you just need to try harder on your sets, bro. You're like, oh, what a fucking cop-out answer. He's just got, we're all trying about as hard. Clearly the issue must be the programming, which isn't necessarily true. Like if I was talking to a guy who was getting into boxing back in the day, if some guy was just like, oh, what is it? I'm not doing enough rounds on what specific drill? Am I not spending enough rounds sparring specifically? What about my program is off? And everybody in boxing would say, well, the program doesn't even matter. You just have to fucking try hard. That's the #1 determinant, right? Which is maybe too far in the other direction. I think I could have been better at boxing if I had put a lot more thought into when I was doing my conditioning rather than just killing myself on it every day. When I was doing more technique, skill work, what I was doing for each of those. I wish I put more thought into it, but all I learned was try hard. And if you're doing stuff, it's going to get it done. And so that's too far in the other direction. But it's always been befuddling to me that people will kind of imply everybody is trying equally hard, and that saying try harder isn't a valid answer. It's a dumb answer, a dumb people answer. Someone smart would have answered something about your periodization or something or other, or accessory selection or something. They would have said something smart. What do you mean try harder? But it's like, if you're an advanced athlete, I'm sure you can look around the gym, or you see people who are not making the progress you're making, and you look and you're like, well, your program isn't that bad. I think I could have made progress on that program as at that level. You're just not applying yourself, whether that be in terms of holding yourself to a high standard in technique, or bringing intensity to a set to actually get near proximity to failure that you're supposed to, or the focus to get on track during a good session. There's lots of things that are just encompassed within effort. And I've always thought it was weird that this is the one activity where that isn't a valid answer. Whereas like in anything else, I think that would be viewed as more of a fair answer, not a cop out, or, oh, this genetically elite guy, like he doesn't want to tell me what drugs he's taking, like whatever it is, it's not viewed as legitimate. And that's something that's very odd to me. So that's my little rant. I hope this is at least kind of coherent. All the sleeping supplements I took last night have not worn off. So when we went to Costco today, I literally was just dazed and stumbling around Costco. So, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe this would be a good video. Maybe this would be a bad video. Okay, so I figured I could share what specifically it is I'm doing as far as my mobility work to get warm today. The reason I don't share either mobility work nor really warm-up schemes on the channel is because it's my personal belief that those are something that should be evolving and changing with your needs, right? There's no reason to grandfather yourself in to some 30, 40-minute warm-up routine consisting of half stuff that were meant to address issues that are no longer issues. It just becomes an inefficient use of training economy. So it's something that evolves with time based on your individual needs, right? If everything is going well, hypothetically, we could just do a hyper-specific warm-up. What does that mean? It means if we're getting ready to bench, we do really light benches and then just work our way up, and there's nothing other than that. If we have specific issues that we need to address, or chronic little tweaks that we might want to address beforehand and additionally warm up, or mobility deficits that we need to address before we start our specific warm-ups, then we can. But the reason I don't share them necessarily is because that would just be a random snapshot in time of what I was doing at that point. But I will walk you guys really quick through what I'm doing on my mobility today. For my ankles, for a while, I had somewhat poor ankle mobility, though I think I overestimated how much of a problem it was. And very quickly I found that a lot of the time when people assume that their ankles are the issue in their squat, they may well not be. Everybody just assumes that, oh, I can't do this pretty nice looking squat. The knees be able to need, like the ankles. My ankles just aren't mobile enough. And oftentimes I think that's just misdirected, and doing a little bit of mobility work for the hips is what ends up yielding the change. The ankle mobility was good enough all along. I found that early in my training, if I stretched out my adductors and my glutes a little bit, that what ankle mobility I thought wasn't enough was plenty to have a squat that looked decent, had good utilization of the quads. It was really that I was misdiagnosing it because of stuff I was reading on the internet about ankle mobility being king or whatever. And what I've done for ankle mobility as of recent is I hang out in the bottom of a third world squat for 5 total minutes every day. And I also include some hypertrophy training for my calves. The combination of just these two things done extremely consistently has led to my ankles being both the most mobile and the healthiest they have been. So I don't really do much to address my ankles other than my calf work, as I find that would really just be misdirecting my focus. What I do is I move upstream and I focus a little bit more on the hips. Usually what I'll do is I will do Cossack squats. I call it the frog stretch. It's not actually the frog stretch. It's where you take like a wider stance squat. You squat down, you put your elbows on your knees, and you use your elbows to push your knees apart, and you hang out in that bottom position of a wider, more toes turned out squat than you normally would. I do the combination of those in Cossack squats to get my adductors moving pretty good. I then throw in Kang squats, which you can search those up if you're not familiar. It's more of just an active mobility motion for the hamstrings. And then I do the pigeon stretch to kind of work on that that external rotation at the femur. And sometimes I'll stretch out my hip flexors if they're feeling tight for the day with a lunge or a couch stretch. But that's basically all I do. I run through these things between my sets of calves, and then I'm good to go to squat. That's what I'm doing right now, right? And I just want to be good in contextualizing. That's just a snapshot in time. Come on. Holy shit, I did not expect that to work. So, because this session went well, I will absolutely include the clip of my lights going out and doing the funky dance. That was a really weird one because usually after I do like a really heavy front squat and my lights are going out, I just kind of like fold to the ground. It's never like full on, I'm not conscious. It's more I kind of lose control of my legs and like buckle towards the floor. I think it's relatively safe. And I'm always ready to bail the rack to the crash pads on the floor, make sure I'm not under the weight if I am passing out, right? So I kind of got that down, but I've never had my body move while I was out of it. Like I could just feel my like legs shaking there. So that was fucking weird. Very frustrating moment for me because I shut down yesterday's workout to make it go well today. I did my homework, I ate, I slept, I did everything I could to be ready. So I was very frustrated to have the same result, actually a worse result than my attempt at this yesterday. I did 405 yesterday. Things went good. I just could tell that with any more weight, it was going to be really bad. Here, man, that got funky. So I was like, well, shit, the logical thing to do is just to get, if I'm just being limited by passing out today, I'm supposed to get in some squat pattern volume for my legs. I started warming up for some high bar as the logical solution. And my immense frustration took over. I was like, fuck this. I was so mature yesterday. I'm gonna fucking fit the square peg in the round hole today. So I just worked up to like a shitty 2-breath front rack hold at 675 and just said adapt or die. And just went straight from that top set, kind of used some like post-activation potentiation with the heavy rack hold straight into my next set of the work set for the day, which the target was 455 for 4, which I got. The part that I realized on rep 3 was that I forgot to put on my fucking belt. So that is a massive, massive, insanely big beltless PR for me. Fucking wild. You gotta put your mind to it.